what you saw here is kind of a unique segment of the population or the building sector, which has not been thoroughly addressed before. We're talking about self-built housing, and self-built housing basically is, the other term is beneficially led construction. People building their own houses. If you look at the housing stock in India, about 62% of housing is yet to be built. And out of that, about 40% is being built by the homeowners themselves. If you step outside any major city, majority of the construction is not apartment, it's self-built housing. Are we helping those homeowners build better homes? That was the challenge we were facing. So we went out and firstly did a study, figure out what exactly is happening on the ground. What are the consumers thinking? What do they want? What are their ambitions? So we did extensive surveys across the country of existing homeowners and about 500 homes or so. And we found that most of the homes were thermally very uncomfortable. And I'm sure many of you have experienced this. If you go out into a single-storied house during peak summers, typically the indoor temperatures would be higher than the outdoor temperatures. And it becomes unbearable to stay inside unless they have some sort of a mechanical cooling system, which causes a financial burden. And we found that most of the people were aware of some benefits of making their home green, but they're not completely sure how to go about it or which measure would be more optimum for their house. And we also found out that the utility expenses were quite high. Even without air conditioning, they were paying about 6-8% of their family income towards their monthly bills, water and electricity bills. And if they install air conditioning, this would become more than twice of that. So we know that India is becoming more and more air conditioned. I mean, the rate of growth in air conditioning is probably one of the highest in the world right now in India. And if these houses become air conditioned, it would not just cause a problem for their finances, but also an environmental and an energy problem for India. So 22% of the homeowners that we interviewed said, yeah, we will consider green home loan. We felt that was a very low number. But we did the whole survey again with new customers, new homeowners, where we described the benefits, not just said whether you'll take a green home or not. We said, if you do this, these are the benefits in your monthly bills, in thermal comfort, in the value of a house. Suddenly the interest went up and the number was more than 50%. So more than half the homeowners were ready. So 51% after they got the details. Now the challenge also in one of these homes is that the supply of electricity and water is not regular outside the major cities. And when that happens, the house becomes very difficult to live in. The quality of life really suffers. Children cannot study, the elderly become sick, the regular tasks are impacted. So we wanted a solution that would not cause a huge financial burden to the homeowners, yet would improve the quality of the life, improve the asset value, and the performance of the buildings. So we came up with this program called Self-Built Housing, Green for Self-Built Housing, again using our Edge platform, our Edge software, but in a very simplified manner. So the first task was how do we simplify the technical requirements. The second was how do we increase the awareness, because as we said, most people don't know about green. They don't know how to do it or how to implement it. And thirdly, how to simplify the certification process. The regular certification process we talked about would be not feasible for this segment. The costs and the complexity for a simple homeowner who may not even be properly educated is almost impossible. So we had to come up with extremely simple process. So the standard is not being diluted. The 20% standard that you've been hearing today, we kept the same standard. But rather than asking them to use the Edge app that you've seen earlier, we came up with a prescription, a prescriptive approach, simple 7-8 measures that they can follow and meet that same standard. And I'll show what those measures are. And then we came up with an extensive program along with our housing finance company partners, and I'll introduce them to you today, to approach their customers, homeowners, and really talk in their language, in simple terms, on how they would benefit from this home loan, and kind of do a communication campaign. Also, hand-holding them throughout the process so that they don't lose focus while they're constructing. Other things may be coming up that may cause them to lose focus. So we want our partners to keep repeating the message, keep guiding them, bringing them again to the right path, and making sure they achieve these standards. Now, the measures are simple. If you can read these, reflective paint on the roof, the ones that you saw in the video, kind of the same things. Window overhangs, low flow shower heads, which cause lowering of water consumption, but also energy consumption for water heating. High efficiency, 5-star rated fans, and very importantly, no red bricks in the house. Why is this important? Because red bricks are one of the highest consumers of embodied energy during construction. Of all the construction materials we use, these are one of the highest embodied carbon or embodied energy consumers. So we wanted to eliminate that. The options are all good. Any other option that they choose right now that's available, whether it's concrete block, fly ash bricks, compressed earth blocks, even my one, for embodied energy, that's better. But nobody uses my one for single family homes. Then if they are an MIG house, then they have to do a few other things. They have to either install a solar panel, a very small one, 300 watt peak, or a solar water heater of 100 liters capacity. And there are some water measures as well, where they have some choices: low flow aerators, dual flush toilets, or a rainwater harvesting system. Again, they can choose whichever is appropriate. So these are simple set of measures that every house has to follow to achieve the EDGE standard for self-built housing. 20% energy saving, 20% water saving, 20% embodied carbon saving. Now, on the awareness side, we did multiple awareness sessions with the homeowners, but also very important with the contractors, because most often it's the contractor who's guiding, who's dictating which material to be used, which equipment to be installed. The homeowners go to the contractor for advice. So we wanted them to be aware of this exercise as well. So besides the technical assistance in developing the technical framework and developing the training material, we did a lot of work on capacity building of our partners, the housing finance company partners, and their contractors, their network, the larger network that they have, and create market awareness so that there is a demand for this. And it's gradually been growing. We've started this program about 2.5 years ago, and numbers are growing. Slow and steady, but we see it moving in the right direction already. Now, the challenges we see are multiple. I won't go into all of these, but as this is a very different market from what we are all used to with developer or large corporates. We are dealing with individual homeowners. We're talking about their family concerns, about their cultural practices, their tradition. We're talking about local availability of materials, skill of local practitioners. So there's a whole new infrastructure that needs to be developed. So we're putting a lot of effort in there along with our partners. And again, I would like our partners, maybe I'll name out all of them if you could stand. So we have Home First Housing Finance, and we have Aadhar Housing Finance. So if you could please stand up. Thank you. And we have Shriram Housing Finance. Thank you. And we have somebody from IFL Housing Finance as well at the back. And what we are missing is Aavas Housing Finance, and we've got some more housing finance companies that have just signed up and who have just started the journey. So thank you again to all the partners to take this difficult journey, but I'm sure we'll all benefit from it. So that was the segment on the self-built housing. But that's a new innovation, a new piece. Should I just jump into the next presentation? Okay, let's ask questions, sir. Yeah, I can maybe just go to 1 or 2 slides in the next presentation, but let's take question. Yeah, please.
Okay. So I think, based on all these presentations and these forums, right, essentially what I could observe is the IFC involvement, and by IFC I mean also the EDGE certification and the IFC involvement is predominantly seen with developers with pedigree, right? That means 1% of, or maybe less than 1%. I don't have any statistics, but I can just assume it's 1% or below.
You're talking about the incremental cost, additional
Yeah,
cost.
I mean, in terms of homes, buildings, developments,
Oh, okay.
these, you can call a Brookfield or you can call a Tata Realty, less than 1% of the population of buildings in India, right? So that's the association. On the other hand, you are looking at developing this new product through some of these HFCs for self-construction or individuals who are building out homes, which is another end of the spectrum, right? And therefore, what I find is the missing component, which is really the biggest piece, is developers, which are not the top 5 names, the rest, 99% others, who are able to achieve EDGE certification, which is quite easy to achieve because most follow the National Building Code, and 20% savings in water, energy, and materials is seamless to achieve for those who have probably in their lifetime done less than 1 million square feet of development, right? I mean, I'm talking about, we take the help of Abdul Moeed to mark all our investments. None of them ever failed, right? So what is stopping IFC to take this financial inclusion program to, funds, right, who have a mandate to do middle income or lower income, affordable, sustainable, aspirational housing, right? And who are funding first generation professionals who are now developers, or maybe even second generations, right? Who are providing, these exactly, some of the attributes. They may not be net carbon zero, or they may not be advanced edge. And because that's where the bulk of the business, or that's where the bulk of the development is, right? Because if you see the benefactors or the counterparties that take the benefits of what you're trying to achieve, many of them are actually excluded from the EDGE process. And I just finish this thing off, and it's more like a statement, less of a question actually, and then you can respond.
Thanks.
Right? So the public sector banks, private banks, AIFs, right? This work of EDGE, green certification, doesn't really percolate. I think one of the gentlemen from Provident, housing was actually articulating it's more like work in progress. The housing authorities, which is MMRDA or PMRDA, they don't give extra FSI because you're implementing EDGE, but they might give it to IGBC, right? The home buyers, in terms of their buying from these developers, even though the building might be EDGE certified, but they don't exactly know, the cost of water, how much exactly, because nearly they can get the same stuff from others. And lastly, the developers, they don't probably ever see the cost of financing.
No, I think those are all valid points. Thanks for raising them. And I agree that we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot more to do, especially in the housing front. Our focus is affordable housing, and we are working with some of the top developers. Signature Global is here today, and Provident as well. We need to do a lot more. In fact, we're now targeting, you talked about funds. We are working on that. It's too early to kind of share the details, but hopefully very soon we'll be launching a fund as well for green affordable housing. And also we are trying to engage with the PMAY schemes, both PMAY urban as well as PMAY Grameen, so that this can become part of the standard mandate for all those homes being built across the country. So thanks for raising that. So should we, can I just show one slide? Maybe I talk about financing, because we talked about Cell-built housing, but we need to identify that there's a lot more financing opportunities available for larger developers, larger projects. Is it in the same PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think as context, I mean, the topic of financing deserves its own kind of spotlight and its own event. We are going to touch the service today. We're conscious time is ticking. We do want to do our felicitation
Sure.
as well, but
So I'll
we do
just
have networking.
Yeah.
So Osif will give you a taster, and then you can capture him and have a chat over networking as well.
So very broadly speaking, IFC gets involved in three ways. One is on the investment, obviously, and we invest sometimes directly with the developer who's building the project. It could be housing, it could be a hotel, it could be a large corporate, whoever is developing. So that's one way of direct investment. And typically, being a development organization, we are limited by certain regulations by the government as well. We can only do large investments, first of all, the direct ones. And secondly, we can not try to disrupt the market in the sense of offering cheaper loans or cheaper debt. We have to follow the market norms. Only under exceptional circumstances can we offer a discount. And I'll talk about some of those exceptional circumstances. And secondly, most of our investment, almost all our investment, is packaged with technical support, because we want those investments to really result in sustainable and affordable green buildings. And Edge is one of those tools, but we have multiple other tools also to talk that can help a client become more sustainable, their properties be more resilient as well. Edge is focusing on the mitigation side, on reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, reducing the environmental footprint. We have just launched a new product, and Priyanka mentioned that, and she's piloting it with Tata Realty, called Building Resilience Index, which is looking at how a building would perform when climate change really starts to happening. And it's already happening. We've seen that in Chennai and Bangalore and multiple other cities when floods happen, when hurricanes strike. Can our buildings survive that? Will they be physically damaged? Will there be operational discontinuity in those buildings? So there's a new tool that we've come up, and we're trying to put our money behind that as well. So if a large portfolio is looking to improve the climate resilience, that we can help both on the technical side as well as on the investment side. And lastly, we work directly with financial institutions sometimes, because direct investments have to be really large. And I'm talking about like $10 million. Those are the kind of investments that we would do at a minimum. But we can approach smaller projects, smaller developers, including cell-built housing, by working with financial institutions like the ones that we've just introduced, but also banks like HDFC and others, where we invest with them with the expectation that they will use that money only for green finance. That could be used for construction finance, or it could even be used for mortgages, green mortgages. Green mortgages are like mortgages to buy a green certified home. And it's not just Edge, we also work with many other certification systems. So they could, if a home buyer is going to buy a greenhouse, certified greenhouse, they could go to the bank with the certificate and show it, and they might get a better loan. Now, that how better is dependent on the finance company. We don't really dictate that part. So those are the three broad ways we can work. We are also working on bonds. We can help set up bonds. We can help set up funds. And the part that I am most personally excited about is the work that we have just done with Mindspace. Mindspace is a commercial REIT, and we have set up a sustainability linked finance with them, which basically means that the terms of our investment, interest rates, are linked to the actual performance of the asset. Meaning if the building is using more energy than the baseline that or the standard that we had set, then their interest rates goes up. If they're performing better, their interest rates goes down. So trying to put in that operational aspect of the building, we feel, is a game changer. Certification is good because certification is showing them the direction, but are they really following that direction is what is needed. So I'm hoping this would become more mainstream now in India. We plan to do many more of these, so we are discussing already with some of our clients, some of them in the room. So hopefully that will be the trend in the future. So I'll just stop here, and I'll be available, and my colleague Sahil as well. Feel free to discuss any opportunities that you may have, any questions you may have, and we can maybe even set up a meeting separately for that. So thank you.